The movie starts in a freezing landscape where Jonathan, a passionate photographer, waits patiently in the snow just to capture a perfect shot of two polar bears playing. From the very first scene, we understand who he is: obsessive, dedicated, and willing to sacrifice his health for his art. Later, Jonathan meets his close friend Carlo at a bar. Carlo praises Jonathan's talent, but reminds him that raw skill isn't enough. To hold a solo exhibition, Jonathan needs a complete, meaningful collection. Jonathan listens, but his unhealthy routine continues. He smokes, skips meals, and exhausts himself chasing perfection. The next morning, Jonathan's life takes a shocking turn. He wakes up and finds a woman sitting calmly beside him, staring at him. Panicked, he demands to know who she is. She introduces herself as Sore, his wife from the future, and says she has returned to fix his life. Terrified, Jonathan runs outside and calls Carlo, assuming this must be a prank. Carlo denies everything. When Jonathan returns, Sore is still there, smiling quietly. He angrily tells her to leave. She does without arguing. Moments later, Sore reappears and hands Jonathan his wallet and phone, things he genuinely forgot. As Jonathan walks away, she follows him and warns him to slow down. He ignores her and immediately crashes into a tomato vendor. This is the first sign that Sore somehow knows what will happen before it does. Disturbed and irritated, Jonathan goes to meet his girlfriend Elsa. When he explains the strange situation, Elsa becomes frustrated. She tells Jonathan that her father is ready to open a restaurant for her, and she wants Jonathan to come with her and settle into that planned life. Jonathan refuses. Photography is his dream, and he hates being controlled. At that exact moment, Sore walks into the restaurant, sits beside Jonathan, and cheerfully introduces herself as his wife. Elsa explodes in anger. When she throws water at Jonathan, Sore blocks it effortlessly. Elsa storms out. Jonathan tries to follow her, ignores Sore's warning again, and immediately falls. Now Jonathan is truly shaken. Back at home, Jonathan locks himself inside, but Sore sits outside all night without moving. The next morning, she's still there. Finally desperate for answers, Jonathan takes her to a restaurant to confront her properly. There, Sore calmly takes control. She orders food only for herself and tells the waiter to give Jonathan just water. She repeats her claim: she is his wife from the future. To test her, Jonathan asks deeply personal questions. Sore reveals his mother's full name and background, his elder sister Sandy's upcoming wedding, and the shocking truth that he has no younger sister, something only Jonathan knows. This completely unsettles him. Jonathan goes to see his friend Carlo while he's rehearsing a play. He skips the greeting and immediately asks where Carlo found that woman and why she came to his house, accusing him of telling her everything about him. Carlo looks confused and says he doesn't know who Jonathan is talking about. When Jonathan says her name, Sore, Carlo thinks he's saying sorry and tells him to calm down. Jonathan explains that Sore is a real person. He says she somehow knows everything about him. Jonathan says that Sore is his wife from the future. Carlo is completely confused and cannot believe what he is hearing. Jonathan returns home. Inside the house, he finds Sore calmly cooking his favorite chicken soup. Jonathan tells her that he accepts she is his future wife, but he asks why she has come to the present. Sore replies that she has come to improve his life. Jonathan laughs and says his life is already perfect. He asks what she could possibly improve. Sore takes Jonathan to his studio room. She tells him that today he will show his photos to curator David, but David will not like them. Jonathan is surprised. Sore says she knows exactly what David will like. She opens Jonathan's secret locker and takes out a box. Jonathan panics and begs her not to open it. Sore calmly explains what is inside. She says there is a special photo. She describes it perfectly. It is a photo Jonathan took in Ladakh, inside a temple. It shows a woman. She even tells him the exact frame number. She tells Jonathan to show this photo to David. Jonathan is stunned. No one in the world knows about this photo except him. At that moment, he starts believing that Sore really is from the future. Jonathan goes with Carlo to meet David. Jonathan shows him the Ladakh photo. David looks closely at the photo. He becomes deeply impressed. He says he has never seen such a shot before. He praises it strongly and calls it brilliant. Jonathan and Carlo are shocked by David's reaction. At another table, Sore watches everything and smiles. Later, Sore asks Jonathan if he believes her now. Jonathan fully believes that she is his future wife and that she came to change his life. For the first time, Jonathan and Sore share a warm handshake. That night, Sore burns all of Jonathan's cigarettes. She pours all his alcohol bottles into the sink. Jonathan is horrified. He says the pain in his heart is unbearable. He asks how he can survive without smoking and drinking. He says he cannot live without them. Sore does not argue. Instead, she changes his daily routine. She wakes him up early. She takes him for walks. She makes him eat on time. She makes him exercise every day. Slowly, Jonathan becomes healthier. Their life starts going well. Over time, they grow closer to each other. One day, David tells Jonathan about a photo exhibition in Madrid. He asks Jonathan for his full photo collection. He expects something unique. Jonathan becomes excited and starts working day and night. At home, Sore tries to open a parcel. Jonathan stops her and tells her not to open it. Sore says she knows what is inside. She says it contains letters from his ex-girlfriend. Jonathan tries to stop her by tickling her. They laugh and come very close. Just as Jonathan is about to kiss her, Sore stops him. She reminds him that they are not married yet. She says they will meet properly at his older sister's wedding. After that, they will fall in love, then marry. Jonathan agrees. He says she is the reason his life is finally on the right path. Later, they sit together and read a book. The next day, Jonathan carefully selects photos for David. He asks Sore which ones David will like. She helps him choose. Still, Jonathan feels something is missing. To capture that missing feeling, they go to a place to photograph the sunset. Jonathan sets up his camera and waits patiently. Sore stands at a distance and gets bored. She shouts at him to eat something first. Jonathan refuses to move. Annoyed, Sore stands in front of his camera. Jonathan suddenly smiles. He says the view is amazing. He asks her to turn slightly left, then right, then look straight. Jonathan starts taking photos of Sore. He says David will definitely love these photos. They return home and go to sleep peacefully. Later that night, after Sore falls asleep, Jonathan goes outside silently to smoke. Sore wakes up and catches him. She scolds him and says these habits will cause serious problems after marriage. Jonathan defends himself. He says smoking is an old habit and he cannot quit suddenly. He promises to try. Sore becomes emotional. She reveals the truth. Jonathan will die of a heart attack just 10 years after their marriage because of smoking and drinking. She reminds him of his wedding promise. As she speaks, blood starts coming from her nose. Jonathan panics and holds her. Her voice echoes that no matter how many times she loses, she will come back for him again and again. Suddenly, time resets. Sore wakes up again in Jonathan's bed. Jonathan looks at her and asks who she is. It is revealed that Sore is stuck in a time loop. Every time Jonathan fails to change, time resets. Each failure causes her nose to bleed. In another loop, Jonathan calls Carlo again. Sore reminds Jonathan that he forgot his wallet and photo. Jonathan goes to meet his girlfriend Elsa. Sore introduces herself as Jonathan's wife. Elsa becomes furious and throws water on Jonathan. Everything happens exactly the same way again. Sore knows what will happen next. In one loop, Jonathan secretly drinks alcohol and collapses on the street. Sore cries and asks why he wants to die so early. Blood flows from her nose again. Time resets. In another loop, Jonathan says he will never give up smoking. Sore begs him not to love or marry her if he will not change. She cannot watch him die again. Her nose bleeds again. Time resets. In the next loop, Sore leaves before Jonathan wakes up. She looks for work and reaches a boutique owned by Marco. Inside the boutique, a bride stands quietly while her mother angrily complains. The wedding dress does not fit properly, and the mother threatens to leave and find another designer. Sorey calmly steps in. She asks the bride to stand straight and lift her heels as if she were wearing high heels. The dress fits perfectly. Sorey explains that the bride will be wearing heels at the wedding anyway. She even guesses how the bride sleeps and explains why the dress does not need straps. The mother is impressed and satisfied. At that moment, Marco arrives and witnesses everything. He immediately recognizes Soreya's knowledge and skill and hires her on the spot. He also rents a room for her. One day, Elsa comes to the boutique to choose her wedding dress. Jonathan accompanies her to have his wedding suit tailored. Sorey is heartbroken. She silently takes Jonathan's measurements. Later, Marco tells Sorey that the past cannot be changed, but people can change themselves. Inside the boutique, Elsa argues with Jonathan and storms off angrily. Sorey thanks Marco for taking care of her. Her nose begins to bleed again. Time resets. This time, Sorey opens the forbidden parcel. Inside, she finds letters Jonathan wrote to his father. She realizes how deeply Jonathan misses him. She tries to tell Jonathan the truth, but he does not understand. In one loop, he even hands her over to the police. Loop after loop, Sorey learns patience and explains everything calmly, again and again. She tells Jonathan that his smoking comes from the pain he feels about his father. Jonathan finally opens up about his childhood trauma. His father left the family and remarried, and Jonathan refuses to meet him. Sorey asks whether Jonathan wants to hurt her in the same way his father hurt him. Time resets again. This time, Sorey goes to meet Carlo and says, "I'm Sorey, Jonathan's wife, from the future." Carlo assumes it's a joke at first. But Sorey explains everything so clearly, so sincerely, that the humor drains from his face. That's when Carlo opens up about Jonathan and Elsa. Elsa always tried to control him, and that's exactly why they never worked. Carlo admits it plainly. Jonathan gets irritated when anyone tries to cage him. Still, he looks at Sorey and says maybe she can change him, maybe she can soften that sharp edge. Then Carlo, being Carlo, can't resist. He asks if she used a time machine, and if she did, can he borrow it too? And while she's at it, any winning lottery numbers. Sorey shuts him down instantly. She tells him Jonathan will improve, but Carlo never will. And no, she didn't come in a time machine. She simply promises she'll take good care of Jonathan, then turns and leaves. At Soreya's urging, Jonathan starts working out. She's careful not to push him, telling him he should only do it if he truly believes it will improve his life, not for her. She then apologizes for mentioning his father, admitting she went too far. Jonathan freezes. "How do you know about my father?" Calmly, Sorey reminds him she's from the future, she knows everything. Then she grows serious. How long will he stay angry? His anger has become a prison. If he wants to move forward, he has to step out of it, and she promises she'll be there with him. Together, they decide Jonathan should finally meet his father. On the way, Jonathan asks a question he can't hold back anymore. What will their married life be like? Sorey tells him it will be good, but there will be fights, because no marriage is perfect. Still, no matter how many lives she lived, Sorey would always choose to marry him again. Jonathan is stunned. "Do you love me that much?" Sorey answers quietly that he has asked her that question many times before. They arrive at his father's house. They knock. And then Soreya's nose begins to bleed. In an instant, everything resets. A new time loop begins. Again and again, she reaches the moment she has been fighting for, and again, the loop snaps shut. The sunsets come too quickly. Each time the sun sinks below the horizon, her nose bleeds, and time drags her back to the beginning. Then the world delivers terrifying news. Because of climate change, daylight hours are shortening. Sunsets are happening more frequently, which means Sorey has less and less time. With every loop, she desperately tries to convince Jonathan before the sun goes down. But she keeps failing. And every failure forces her to relive the future she is trying to escape, watching Jonathan die of a heart attack 10 years later, again and again. Until one day, Jonathan wakes up. A new time loop has begun, one where Sore does not exist in Jonathan's life. Jonathan moves through the day unaware that anything is missing. His life feels lighter, as though a weight he never understood has quietly disappeared. He meets Elsa. She talks about her future, her plans, her expectations. He realizes how controlled he feels. And he breaks up with her. Later, Jonathan tells Carlo that time feels distorted, like he's living multiple days at once. But instead of being afraid, he feels as if his life is finally moving forward. Jonathan throws himself into his work. And then, gathering the courage he has avoided for years, he goes to see his father. His father's wife opens the door and invites him inside. Jonathan sees his father laughing and playing with his young son. The sight cuts deeply. The scene cuts as Jonathan's father enters. On the table lies a childhood photo of them together. Jonathan has left a forgiveness letter for his father. Upon reading it, his father is devastated. He rushes out to search for Jonathan, but he is nowhere to be found. From that day on, Jonathan changes. He removes all his bad habits and embraces a healthy lifestyle. The hardest thing he ever had to face was his father. And now he has faced him. The burden is gone. While jogging, he runs into his mother. She is overwhelmed by the change in him. She asks when he will come home. Jonathan smiles and promises he will soon. He moves toward his dream and organizes a solo photography exhibition. And then a woman arrives. It's Sore. But in this timeline, they don't know each other. Sore walks through the gallery, studying the photographs, until she stops at one, the sunset Jonathan captured. The same sunset where she once stepped into the frame. But now she isn't in it. Because in this timeline, they haven't met. Jonathan notices and approaches. She asks if there is something special about the photograph. Jonathan dims the lights. The aurora images glow to life. In that atmosphere, he explains why he took the photograph. Only then does she realize he is the photographer. Jonathan smiles and tells her there is nothing to apologize for. She looked at his work sincerely. That alone is enough. Then he introduces himself. My name is Jonathan. And you are? Sore. He offers his hand. She hesitates, then takes it. And suddenly, the memories return. Jonathan remembers everything, and Sore remembers the truth she carried alone. Tears fill her eyes. Through those tears, we finally see what truly happened. Jonathan collapses from a heart attack while working. Sore rushes to him, but it is too late. She stands beside his cremation, shattered by grief. She reads the notes he left behind, his dreams he never fulfilled. So Sore goes alone. She fulfills the life Jonathan never lived. And when she sleeps, she wakes up beside Jonathan. That is where the loop begins. Sore clings to him, crying, begging him not to leave her. He doesn't understand. In this moment, they have not met yet. Her nose bleeds, she faints. And the loop continues. Only then does she understand the truth. She cannot save Jonathan by force. He must choose to change himself. And eventually, he does. Sore once asked Jonathan not to forget her. Now, he remembers everything. He pulls her into his arms. Both of them break, overwhelmed by everything they have lived, and with that embrace, the movie comes to an end.